Right, I'm going to pull us out of cancer chat. I want to talk about one passage of the book, which I need to hear the full story of, and it's when you first got Arani, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Arani, your manager, on board, and she organised the first gig, and it was a tour cow on the Bombay Hills, south of the Bombay Hills.
Yeah.
But you didn't know it was a mongrel mob headquarters. Can you paint the picture?
And yeah, sort of. We knew that there was a one of the bikie gangs was out that way, and but we didn't tell Arani because she wanted to be our manager. You know, we went to her and said we'd like you to be our manager. She had been working for Greenpeace for a long time. She was part of the team that turned the Antarctic into a national park basically. So we thought she's a bit of a shake and a mover, She's got the right idea and the right passion, and so we asked her if she'd like to do some work for us, because we were taking the phone calls, people trying to book us, and we're going, oh no. So and I'd say, Jules, people up the road, want us to do a gig at the pub and stuff. We have to write it down, remember it, and it was getting a bit too much, So we asked her, but and then Jules and I had gone out to the pub to drop off some posters because we agreed that we would do that. Because she said, how do I know where am I going to get a venue? And we said, look in the yellow pages. So somehow she opened the yellow pages and it said the Tuakau Pub. And then so we had some standard posters, that we could write on, so we took some out. And we walked into the pub and Nana Tui was there. Now, we didn't know Nana Tui before this, but we walked in that pub and Nana Tui looked at us and she said, you're the twinnies from the TV, aren't you? And we go, yes, we are. And then so we had a beer with Nana Tui, and then we put our posters up, and then we headed off. And then, about a week later, we came to do the gig. And it was Arani's first gig, and she sat at the door, and she was going to charge $5. It was $5 in those days to come and see.
And there was a pool table right in the middle of the front of the stage, and we said, "Can we move that?" And they said, "No, boys might want to play right in the middle, right slap bang in the middle of this, in front of the stage."
But it was classic because when Arani was sitting there, and nobody had played at this pub for a long time. It had been like a year and over 2 years or something. And there was apparently one of the gangs, it was their drinking hole. I'm not going to say which gang it was. You have to read the book. I think it was in the book. But anyway, it was their bit of a drinking hole for them and stuff like that. And but the management of the pub said, "Yeah, let's get the top ones on," And so people started
coming.
arriving.
We had farmers from around the district too,
So, farmers started, when their wives started coming in and stuff like that, and they were all paying their money and stuff like that. And there were some boys came in, and Arani said, it's $5. And they go, "What do you mean? It's $5. We just come here to have a drink and play some pool." And she said, "Oh, the Top Twins are playing." And they just walked straight through. They said, "Nah, not paying to come in. We've been here coming in forever, And then we started singing. They always played a few games of pool and they sort of shifted it out to the side for a bit. We started singing, and Nana Tui got up. We started with a Māori welcome song because we used to do that when we would start. And Nana Tui got up on the floor and started, singing and dancing, in a way that said, "These are my 20s and they have to be respected." It was a moment that we felt so amazing about, that she had done that.
She'd sort of acknowledged us, about being there.
And stuff like that. And then slowly, as the night went on, more people started arriving and things like that, and da-da-da-da-da, and then more people arrived who wouldn't pay and all that kind of stuff. And then the big boss of the gang arrived, and he went and got a jug of beer, and he sat down at one of the trestle tables, and he had his jug of beer, and nobody else sat with him, and he just sat there.
He had a cobweb tattooed on his neck.
Cobweb on his neck and everything.
Yeah, the man. He's the man.
And everybody sort of looked at him and stuff like that, and we were singing away and stuff like that. And then we had a great night, and everybody had a great night. And then at the end of that night, all the boys who hadn't paid came up and gave Arani their money.
Really?
And then the big boy, who was sitting there with his one jug, when I looked out and we'd done our yodel, we were singing an old country yodel, there's like tears streaming down his face, you know. I'm thinking, what's going on there? Anyway, at the end of the night, we ended up at the bar. Nana Tui was there, the gang boss was there, and he just told us that, you know, he just got out of prison. And he told us his story, and he cried, and we all cried, and I was thinking, this is amazing. And for Arani, it was the most traumatic experience of her life because she was supposed to be, you know, the Top Twins manager, making money, and she couldn't get anybody to you know, pay to come in and stuff. But from that moment on, she realised that the Top Twins could play anywhere in New Zealand.
Yeah. Is that the power of music, or is that the power of relatability?
It's the power of the Top Twins, is what it is, because we understood. And as a performer, if you're walking into a venue and you know that you have to know the venue, you have to know the clients, the people that are going to come, your audience, you have to know them. And if there are people who are in the audience that you don't know, you have to make sure that by the end of that show, you know exactly who you're dealing with. And that's what we had.
We can bring them with us.
Yeah.
We can reach out and somehow bring them with us. We actually, you know, some times we used to say, we don't know what the magic is, so let's not question it. It seemed to be working. But there was something that we were doing in our younger years that meant at the end of the night, that whole crowd was with us. And we didn't question it. We just said, whatever we're doing is working. And we still sometimes don't have a clue why it's working. But it's because it's the power of two. It's the power of two. And the other thing too was, if we hadn't gone out there the week before, if we didn't do our due diligence, we would never have met Nana Tui. And when you're an auntie, you're pretty big, but when you're a nana, you're even bigger. And we know that.
Like
we grew up in Huntly, you know. We had the joy of being around a Maori community for a long time in our lives. And, you know, there are some people in New Zealand who are white who have still never been onto a marae. And so, you know, for us, it was no big deal. It just seemed like our life has been like that. We've been surrounded by Maori people for such a long time. We were part of a community that's, you know, slept at Bastion Point many nights. There were a huge amount of Maori women who identified as lesbian. So that we've been a part of this whole life. We all cut when we bleed. And, you know, when we finally...
We all bleed when we cut, Jules.
We all
ran the other way.
Okay, all right, then.
Tell me very quickly, when you were at the Tuakau pub, were you still running the handbag out of the crowd?
No, we were just as the Top Twins. We didn't have the characters at that point.
But
we were just being ourselves. And then
we were singing old country tunes. And that big head honcho boy with his cobweb tattooed neck, his mother and father they loved country music, and he had remembered that. And when we sang that song, somehow something just happened to him, and he just made tears roll down his cheeks. And then when we spoke to him for quite some time, he'd had a terrible childhood. You know, he just had the worst life. And when we wrote our book, we realised we had the most perfect childhood. We had everything that we wanted, and we had a pony, and we had mum and dad.
And we had each other all that time. You know, when I say the power of two, you know, I mean, it's two beers, isn't it? Okay? Well, if you change that, you know, one beer podcast, it's got no power, has it? It's got no, because there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
Shay's always threatening to go solo, but it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
I don't know.
No good, because he doesn't drink beer anymore. Just it would have to be called one. Just be one. Then they'd think you were telephone. They were a telephone company and never talk to you.
It's really good. So onto it. I tried to get a little cue in there, but I've heard an anecdote about a handbag in the crowd. A shtick you used to do overseas,
we did,
maybe when you.
We've done that millions of times in New Zealand. Linda would steal a lady's handbag and go through it.
Yeah,
and let me tell you, a lady's handbag is her castle.
Yeah.
You know, don't ever underestimate the power of a woman that has had her handbag stolen in a show. I can remember it was in, where was that? It was down Te Awamutu way or something. It was down that way. Tikawiti.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was in the local hall. I walked out. Or I actually used to jump off stage as camp mother. No, that was the Ginghams.
Yeah.
I used to jump off stage, and I'd grab, on the way back, I'd be chatting away to people and stuff. On the way out, I'd be looking for a handbag that was available. And then on the way back, when the people were looking at the forward, I'd, under the seat, grab the bag, and boom, I'd be on stage. And I was walking down the aisle of the hallway, and I'd seen the bag on the way out, grabbed the bag, shoved it over my arm, and was nearly at the stage when the woman it was almost like a French tackle.
Flying tackle.
Flying tackle on a Frenchman from an All Black. It was a flying tackle. And she absolutely, round the waist, took me down in the aisle. And I turned around and I was trying to get her off. And I was saying, just go with it, all right? We're going to get you up to get the bag back. You'll get your bag back. Everything will be all right. Well, she didn't want it. She wanted that bag right then and there. And in the end, I had to beat her off with her own handbag. So that was quietly. But and then I managed to scramble up. Jules grabbed me, and the lady was left, there and stuff like that. And then I said, "Come on up! It's just your handbag." I said, "Come on up." So then she had to come up, And then what happened was I opened that handbag up, and there must have been something like about $5,000 or $6,000 in cash in the bag.
Wow!
And I'm going, either she's a drug dealer, or something, is major in there. And what happened was she had a little shop. And she had the takings.
It was Friday night gig. They'd put all the money in a handbag and come straight to the show.
And so she had all the cash in the bag. But, that cash meant everything to her, and she thought we were stealing it.
And we did that gig lots. One time we did it in Australia. This was funny. Oh, it could only happen in Australia, actually. There was a duffel bag. Linda brought a duffel bag up. It gets up there, and we always looked in the bag, and Linda would go, oh, shit, she's seen something weird, sort of. And every time we did that, it was part of the gag. And then she'd pull something out that was funny, and it was something always funny. I opened
the duffel bag and looked in, and I did make that funny look at Jules, and it was for real.
Yeah,
I'm going, this
what
was
was
weird.
In that bag was a vibrator and an orange.
Yeah,
that's it.
Like it wasn't a vibrator, Jules. It was a really big dildo.
Yeah,
let's face it.
Okay. Anyway, so Linda pulls both of them out because I knew she would, right? Once she realised something terrible wasn't there, so she's holding this ginormous dildo and an orange, and she says quietly to the crowd, "Okay, there's something I really want to know here. What is the orange for?" And everyone lost the plot. And then I thought, no one's going to claim this bag. We're going to say, whose bag is it? Because we'd say, come down and get it, and we'd give them a CD. It was just a way of us giving them a CD to put in their bag, but it was
we would steal things out of the bag while nobody knew we were stealing things.
Yeah.
We'd have their
I'd
keys,
take credit cards.
No way someone claiming the duffel bag.
Yeah, with
right?
a big dilly in it. No
but in
chance.
Australia, we go, whose bag is this? And the lady goes, it's mine. Really proud of everything, that's in the bag. It's orange and I do it. Really weird shit.
Just begs the question: why take it to a show?
I don't know.
Hey.
I don't
know.
People have urges.
She must have been on a way somewhere with a dildo and an orange.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to the bottom of
She
what
might
the
have
orange
thought
was
she could have
for?
picked someone up at the show and gone home with it. Would you like some supper and a dildo? No big deal. But it was a very funny night.
It's good.
Because, we always turned these things into our advantage. And while Linda was mucking around, she'd hand things to me and I'd give them back and everything. But we always managed to steal someone's. I'd have a little skirt in the ginghams because they were the country characters that we played, and I put a gold card in my
Visa card, credit card, and the keys
and
to
the
their
keys,
car
right?
usually would be in there.
And then we take money out of their wallet and I put it in my pocket, right? And so when they came up, we gave them their money back for the show, so they get them for free. But it was their money that we'd taken out of their wallet, and then we'd send them back, and then just while they were getting down off the stage or something, go back and we said, hang on a minute. And we said, was that your card too? Your gold
give them a credit card.
And then finally he would say, oh, and by the way, you want to hold and it's parked outside and that's the keys to their car. So it was brilliant. And almost every time you'd find keys, some money and a credit card.
Brilliant.
So
and a dildo.
Yeah,
dildo. Every now and then.
Every now and then.
Strike it lucky.
So good. Such glory days. Like the retelling of it. So much fun. We've mentioned Ken and Ken and the Gingham twins. I'm keen to hear about Camp Mother and Camp Leader because probably your most famous characters.
They're pretty famous, yeah.
And my childhood, Camp Mother, Camp Leader were everywhere, like Topp twins, Camp Mother, Camp Leader.
Yeah.
When you came up with those characters, do you know instinctively that you've got something? Like, did you know that, this is...
We came up with those characters because it had been a terrible summer and we wanted to go camping, and we thought what we'll do is we'll do a stage show and we will guarantee perfect weather because it was in the theatre.
The theatre was down at the waterfront years ago
and we turned the whole stage into a camping ground, and all the people who were in the show were the campers. And we had and you could buy a hamper So we arrived, and you got a hamper, and you sat down, and there was cushions and pillows and all sorts of stuff. And it was like you were having a picnic at the camping grounds. And we drove our Bambina into the camping grounds. And the first time we did the show, my camp mother, she'd pop out of the roof of the Bambina.
We had a little pull-back sunroof in the Bambina.
So she popped her head out. I was driving the car as camp leader. I mean, that was dangerous in itself, having camp leader drive, because she's pretty erratic most of the time. And we come flying in, slam the brakes on. Camp mother hauls herself up the top and goes, "Hello, campers," at the time there, and then puts her hand down the thing, and I slammed the door shut right on her hand. So I'd slammed camp mother's door shut in the Bambina. Thank God it was a Bambina.
What happened was that,
chopped them off.
I was taking them all in because I was the camp mother of everything. I was taking the crowd in and everything like that. I had a handbag on this side, on my left side. This hand was holding the other side, and camp leader got out, shut the door, and my whole hand got slammed in the door. Yeah. So this is the first time we've ever done camp mother and camp leader. Now, if it had been a Commodore, I probably would have lost my fingers. Yeah. But it was a Bambina, so it didn't close that tight. I mean, I could feel, the bottom part of my fingers starting to pulse and swell. And then Jules finally realised and opened the door up, and I got my hand out and stuff. But I carried on as if nothing had happened, because that's what you do. Mum said, never let the audience know that you've made a mistake. And so we carried on. And so that was the first time we did Camp Mother and Camp Leader. And we had an absolute ball. And what happened was that Jules, halfway through the show, got very ill. For real.
I got food poisoning.
And so halfway through this live show, Jules says to me, she's playing the guitar, and she says, "I think I'm going to be sick. I think I'm going to vomit." And then so I was thinking, oh no. And then she was getting terrible, looking green and everything. So I ran and got a chair, and I put camp leader in it on the main stage, on the front of everybody. And I said, camp leader's been a little bit sick lately. There's been a bug going around the camping ground. And I'm just going to sit her down for a bit.
And everyone thought it was part of the show.
Yeah. Well, this is the genius of your ad-libbing, I guess, is that it was believable.
And then finally...
I thought it was part of the show.
Finally, Jules thinks that she is going to vomit. And then, so she runs off the stage, and a friend of ours who was actually doing some harmonies with us, and she was playing drums on the night, she had gone off with camp leader, and she'd run off and got a bucket. She found a bucket out the back, a mop bucket. So camp leader is spewing into the bucket on the side of stage.
And she's yelling back to camp mother, the carrots and the sweet corn's coming up now, camp mother.
Are you still mic'd up and everything?
Yeah, everything.
Oh, brilliant.
It's all
everything
beautiful.
is happening in real life,
and
right?
they said, of course, people always get stomach bugs at the camping ground. So
then I went out, camp mother is asking, is there anybody here tonight in the audience been feeling a little bit unwell? And a woman puts her hand up. She says, "Yes, I've been terribly unwell." And I said, "You might be a carrier. You'll have to come up on stage and be isolated." So we bring her up and put her in a chair in the corner so she can't spread the bug. So she's there for the whole time.
Show.
And then we gave her all sorts of things. We gave her a seat. Because when you get people up on stage,
you got to look after them.
You look after them.
Yeah.
And we always gave them a present. There was always a CD or something, or a T-shirt or whatever we had, as merchandise. We'd give them something at the end and say, thank you for being part of the show, sort of thing. But she was over there, camp leader, who was now really ill, kept puking, running on and off and puking. And it was being reviewed. It was the first, of Camp Mother, Camping Out, the show was called. And then, so the next day, there is this review that is a rave review.
It's brilliant.
What an amazing idea about having a bug in a camping ground and da-da-da-da-da. And then the second night, of course, and we sold out. We'd already sold out. Jules was better.
Fine. It was much better.
Did you have to
play the next
again?
night, there was no bug, there was no puking, and people who'd read the critique going,
"Give me my money back.
This is weird.
Where's the bug?"
So this ties into your mum's advice, right? If you make a mistake, make it bigger.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was incredible. And at the end of it, honestly, I was so ill. I got tetany. You know what tetany is? It's when your hands go backwards.
Yeah, go in like that, and everything tightens up.
Everything goes tight, and I hadn't been able to lie down. I wanted to lie down from the very moment I felt sick, and I hadn't been able to, and so I just at the end of the show we all went off, came back on, did a bow, and I ran off stage and collapsed on the back of the stage and had got tetany. And they all thought they were going to have to take me to the hospital, and then I said, okay, I just need some water and breathe a little bit, and came right. But I was completely paralysed for a good 10 minutes after the show. It was like, you know, but it's interesting how you just do these things along the way. You just make it happen.
It must be amazing now, years later. Like, you've come up with this creation, Camp Mother, Camp Leader. You do this thing, but it just takes off, and it just creates this incredible world of its own.
She's I'm camp leader. This is Jules speaking, and I think that out of all the characters, I love her because I have no idea where she's going to go. She's completely and utterly out of control. She's the little part of me that wants to be naughty all the time.
I was going to say, do you? Yeah, because it's ad-libbed, I guess you don't know where you're going to go on any given evening, right?
On several occasions, you know, we'd be getting ready in the dressing room. We were doing some big theatre show or something in you know, Christchurch or Dunedin or something, and we'd moved into the big theatres with all the characters, you know. So there's 1,200, 1,500 seater theatres that we were playing to, and we're getting ready, you know, backstage and what have you, and we'd be standing by, and then the announcement would say, "Ladies and gentlemen, can you please welcome on stage the Top Ones," and Camp Mother and Camp Leader would walk out. And just before we went out, I was thinking, what's Camp Leader going to do tonight? What's she going to do, you know? And my job was to keep the show moving forward, because Camp Mother is, I wouldn't call her bossy, but she's in charge.
Hey, that's my job,
Stephen.
Yeah, you're talking to me. Yeah,
that's Stephen, and you and me are the same. I just make it up as I go along.
And the classic
These
thing,
are just for show.
That's good.
there's a camp mother and a camp leader in everybody. You know, there's somebody's. Well, you choose. You're either camp mother or you're a camp leader. You can't be both.
And it's someone's sidekick. You know, if you look at all the great comedians in the past, there was always two of them, Laurel and Hardy. You know, all those great comedians. There was two of them, and the one was the sidekick, and you got a laugh because the other one was an idiot, and the other one was always
Morecambe and Wise were best, you know, at that whole thing of the two comedians.
And I guess, you know,
and the two Ronnies, you know, they were brilliant, that sidekick thing, you know. And I suppose in Camp Mother and Camp Leader that when you look at that sidekick thing, I was always moving forward, and my job was to bring Camp Leader with me, because Camp Leader was always veering off, you know, on some other weird little tangent.
And it's a really fun character to play, because even I don't know what's going to happen.
No. There was a great story in the book about Prince Charles then, who's now King Charles, and staying in character.
Yeah, it was really funny, because I went out and I had this great line, because I wanted to say we're so happy to have the Prince of Wales and octopuses and other fish here with us tonight, but no, they said, don't do that. God, it'll be really, you know, he might get upset.
You know, when you do, sometimes you might get it, you know, we're doing media and stuff like that, and there's a list of questions that you're not allowed to answer, or there's things you're not allowed to say. We got a little note, a thing saying, you know, says you cannot do this in front of, you know, the then Prince Charles and Camilla and stuff like that. And so, and I did have a brief moment just before we walked on stage. Is Camp Lady going to stay on track?
She's going to go AWOL.
Just
up there.
Just on interesting gags, what was Helen Clark's reaction when you said that she's not a lesbian but her haircut is?
She loved it.
She loved it.
We were in London. We were over there we were playing in London. It was our birthday, and the APAC you know, leaders meeting was on in London, and we get a call. We get to London. We get a call. It's Helen Clark. And she says to us, could I come and introduce you on stage tonight? We said, that'd be fantastic. But, you know, we're leaning to a very leftist kind of audience most of the time. So and Helen was working for the UN by then. She was, you know. And
Jacinda was in London
for the APEC
heavily pregnant and at the APEC meeting.
So Helen Clark comes on and introduces us. It's like they're mostly New Zealanders who are at the show, all homesick New Zealanders come to see the Top Twins on their birthday. And Helen Clark comes out. So there's just amazing uproar of, you know, excitement that Helen Clark is now introducing the Top Twins. She comes on, and then boom, out we come. And then at the very end of the night,
at half time though, there was a bit of a, you know, there was
murmur
in the audience, what was going on and stuff like that. And there was guys came in with headphones and were checking the seats and everything like that. And they go, "What's going on?" There were people thinking there was a bomb scare or something, but no, it's Jacinda Ardern's security team, and she has turned up with, you know, her beau to watch the second half of the Top Twins show. So Helen's introduced us. Now Jacinda is actually watching the second half of the show. And then at the end of the night,
all three of them, Jacinda's husband, her, and Helen Clark, all walk onto the stage with a birthday cake her a happy birthday.
And sing happy birthday to us.
And we just said this. Only New Zealand could an ex-prime minister and a present prime minister come on stage and hand you over a birthday present.
Yeah.
And it was a magical moment. It was just something that happened.
Does Jacinda still have your caravan?
Yes, she does.
She does, I think. Yes.
Tell us the story behind that.
Oh, well, I advertised it on Trade Me. A tree had fallen through it. There was a hole in the middle of it, but it was a very old starlit caravan, probably built in 1956, I think it was. And I said, this would be a great project for someone because it's got all the right outlines. It was made of fiberglass. It was ahead of its time, fiberglass and aluminium. And I said, I put it on Trade Me for $1. I said, someone might like to do it up. But a tree has fallen, a big branch had fallen through it, smashed this fiberglass roof. And
Pause there, Jules, for a moment.
Was that?
Pause.
We're going again.
Nice.
So good.
How good.
So good.
Anyway, so what happened was these people had come down from up north who restored old caravans and had a look at it. And they said, if you had anyone else who wants to come and see it. I said, no, I've had no interest in it whatsoever. So they came down and I put it on Trade Me. Bidding started. They said who they were going to be. They said, we're going to bid on it. You know, we definitely want it. It's cool. I said, oh, that's great. They start bidding. It's on for $1. They put they go. We're just going to wipe out the rest of the people who are going to try and buy this caravan. Go to $50, right? And then someone else comes on and puts $100 on it. Right? So they said, well, shit, we really want that caravan. They decided because it was, you know, quite a rare little thing. And so they go, oh no, well we'll get it now. We'll just go 150. And then
boom, they came.
$200, boom, until it gets to $1,000.
Wow,
it's $1,000. And I wrote on the timeline. I said, this caravan is not roadworthy. It has a hole in the top. It's got a tree in it. Yeah. This is a restored. You know, this is to be restored, or even just to get a pattern off.
And then at the bottom, it's munted.
Yeah.
Completely and utterly munted.
Yeah.
And then
the person who's now, and so the people who had come to see it rang me and said, who's bidding on it? Are you guys bidding on it? To get it up?
Yeah,
they thought we were bidding on it. We said, I guarantee 100% that we are not bidding. Some other crazy shit is out there putting some money on this and they really want it. And so they said, we're not going to buy it. We're not going to go any further. So it went to 1,200 and someone bought it. Next minute, there's a whole carload of MPs and Jacinda Ardern arrived saying, we've come to look at our caravan. And then she rose up to the caravan and I said, well, that's it there. It's got a bit of a hole and everything, but it's cute. She said, oh, it's lovely. We can restore that. It'll be amazing. And she goes up and opens the door and the whole fucking door falls off onto the ground. Well, the whole thing had rusted off and fell to the ground.
And the beautiful thing is that Jacinda and all the MPs managed to lift it onto a trailer.
Yep.
And they took it away. And then it was probably maybe a couple of years later, we did a exhibition in Huntly at the little coal mine museum
called Six Strings in Politics,
and
some
it was all
they
about
put
the
it
top
together.
twins.
All
They
the people
put-
at the museum. Had
they put this museum piece together about the Topp twins because that was our hometown. And while we were all waiting there to go in for their opening, here comes a little caravan pulled up right outside the museum, and it was Jacinda.
It was beautifully restored.
With the caravan fully restored, and she parked it outside the museum for everybody to see.
No one even knew who she was then, but she set it up to be her, instead of having a home where people would come and see her and her electorate, she would make them a cup of coffee in the little caravan outside.
And it was fully restored,
Wow.
absolutely 19, retro.
And I said, how much
beautiful.
did you spend on it? She said, can't tell you that, but it was eventually, the money I spent on it was initially a deposit on a house, and now I can't buy a house. So it cost quite a bit of money.
We'll put that one in the Only in New Zealand file.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well,
that's
shall
right.
we?
Yeah. And what was really cool when we did our tribute show, we did a tribute show down in Auckland at the Civic, and all these musicians played our songs and came on stage and helped raise money when we were both pretty sick. She came on. She did a beautiful video. Couldn't be there in person, but came over on the video on the big screen and said, thanks very much for the caravan.
Oh,
Loved
brilliant.
So
it.
cool.
And I'll make sure I always keep it on the road for you. So it was a beautiful moment,
We won't keep you much longer, but I do want to loop back to what you said at the top, which is when we spoke about Chris Parker, and you said, well, that's our job, leave the door open for those that sort of follow you.
Yeah.
And him and Tom Sainsbury, who's also been a guest on the show, and another one who I know draws great inspiration from you, they played you in this show, right?
Yeah, he did.
In
Camp
Auckland.
Mother and Camp Leader.
Mother and Camp Leader.
Yeah.
Like, that is such
They
a
were
cool
really
moment.
freaked
Yeah,
out
did they
about
do a
it.
good job? Yeah.
They were really freaked out, and we said, look, the great thing about being Camp Mother and Camp Leader is you can do anything you want and it'll work. As long as you're in those outfits, you'll be fine. The crowd will love you. And they did. They absolutely adored them. They did quite a bit of twerking at the end that
Right
we
at
would
the
never have
end,
done.
Chris Parker, because what we did was
Is that part of your original act?
we
The old twerking?
No, we never did
Just
that.
checking, just fact checking.
The classic thing is we loaned them our original
Costumes.
Camp Mother onesie and Camp Leader's dress and cardi. They were the original outfits that they were wearing, so they were in the real McCoy. Now, I'm about 5'4", and Chris Parker's probably 6 foot, at least 6 foot.
Yeah.
So when he put my jumpsuit on, it came up, was just below his calf.
Yeah.
And when he did pull it up to sort of, get it to look like it was over some boobies, there was sort of quite a big bulge in the
Oh, right.
it was
Chris Parker.
Chris Parker packing some heat.
It was camp mother with balls.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But you're going to say he had a dildo and an orange under there or something.
And then what happened was they had a lovely time, and Tom Sainsbury was so beautiful. He was so gorgeous as camp leader, and because Tom's done some amazing things. His character's out there, but he was so beautiful and soft and everything like that. And Chris had his handbag, tucked in and everything like that. And then he turned to the audience and did the most incredible twerk that we have seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And of course, it wasn't a pretty sight.
Did they stay true to
We
the
there.
Top
I said,
Twins?
just go for it. Just do whatever you think is funny, and they did, and it was amazing. And I guess in some ways that was, and all the time we've ever been performers, and we've been around other performers. That was a moment because there was some love in the room that night, and we were both pretty unwell, and we didn't know whether we were going to make it to be there. We're hoping that we were going to be there, and so to hear other artists sing our songs, that was just the most beautiful moment. Because people, they understand that we're comedic and that we have characters and everything, but the vehicle to get us through every single show has been all the songs that we've written. So the songs to us are, really important. So when we just finished another radio interview, and they are just playing Top Twin songs and talking about what those songs mean to us. So we have many strings to our bow, but those songs are really important because they are the vehicle.
Yeah,
They're the car that make us move.
that classic moment was, at that tribute show. That was sort of, we'd finished our chemo, treatment, and it was, a hard time, at the end of there when I discovered I had neuropathy as well. And we walked out, we were like the Muppets, and we were in the, the royal box,
the old
the
man
old
at the top.
Muppets,
Yeah.
looking out onto the show.
Statler
And,
and Waldorf.
Yeah, I never remember their name.
Yeah.
Good. That's really
Yeah.
good knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
and then when all of those beautiful performers came out and sang our songs, it was a tribute. We really felt so loved and so humbled by it. It was a magic moment. And you need every now and then you need one of those in your life.
It's so cool you got to experience that in the room, because there is so much love. Like in researching for this ep and listening to interviews and reading what other people are saying, there's so much love for you guys out there across
Yeah.
New Zealand. And because you've been up and down the country 20 times, I think you've said,
Yeah.
playing to bloody every city and town in New Zealand.
And everyone thanks us for what we've done from New Zealand, but we really need to thank New Zealand because they came with us. They came along for the ride. They came for the journey.
It's so cool.